Hey, good evening, good evening. It is Friday. So blessed that we beginning to see the end of another week. And I missed y'all last week because both of my grandsons was graduating from college and high school. But I am so glad to be back on action. And can we take a moment of silence for the addicts who still suffer, for the addicts who died last night, for the addicts that's still struggling. Just take a moment for them. My God, my God, my God, the God of my understanding has been so good to us. And I'm so proud to be a member of the Narcotics Anonymous program. You know, if it wasn't for the Narcotics Anonymous program and the God of my understanding, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to y'all today. I wouldn't let you know it's a better way to live and get ourselves together. And I'm just so proud that narcotics teaches us how to maintain things, how to deal with things, how to slow down, how to be patient before anger, you know, and I really have worked on that part. I know I have. I thank God every day. Shout out to the 12-step program that saved millions of lives and still saving lives. Hey, Cousin Pam, I thank God that I had many friends, a whole new different friendship that I enjoy being around, and that's the Friends in Narcotics Anonymous program. And I thank God for that. I thank God for the kind, loving people that I have talked about my struggles. They talk about their struggles, you know, and how we got through. You know, we need each other. We need each other's stories. We need each other's hopes and strength. We need each other. And I thank God that, you know, allowed me to go and come back with some new way of looking at things, and how that we don't have to accept what people think we have to. We have to accept what we know that's right for ourselves. And I thank God, you know, thank God, Narcotics Anonymous program. I'll be speaking tomorrow, just dealing with narcotics, NA, tomorrow, and Sunday. And I thank God that He allowed me to be open, to feel free, to talk. And that's what I'm going to talk about. It says we didn't break. We cried, we lost ourselves to an addiction, and we still survived to talk about it. Now, why did that mean a lot? Because a lot of people didn't survive. We lost a lot of loved ones. We lost a lot of friends in recovery. You know, we lost a lot of people in recovery, you know, that's not here today, you know. And I thank God that, you know, I have this platform to talk about the titles that God gives me and allow me to bring it freely how I feel. You know, and Narcotics Anonymous program have taught us how to steer ourselves right. You know, no matter how we feel it, because sometimes my feelings get in the way. But I still thank God for my feelings. I still thank God that I can feel. Because I can analyze whatever I'm going through, whatever I need to. And you're supposed to be the same way. We don't have good days all day, but the best days is that we didn't use. And that's every day that we don't use. You know, because my old way of thinking that the stuff that I go through now, the stuff that I be quiet about and don't say nothing about, is the stuff I used to use about. Hurt and anger and betrayal. You know, betrayal. You know, I used to use behind that, but see, I ain't got to use no more. They told me no matter what. No matter what we go through, no matter how we feel, no matter what we see, no matter what place we find ourselves in, we don't ever have to use again. And I am so glad that the Narcotics Anonymous program has taught me how to surrender on a daily basis. How to surrender. Hey, Miss Maddie, good to see you. How to surrender on a daily basis. How to surrender. Oh, before I get started, let me give a shout out to some people. Let me give a shout out to all the facilities who help change people's lives, all the detox places that takes the peoples in and get them together and help them find a new way to live. We can't save everybody. Can't nobody save everybody. Can't nobody. They have to want this Narcotics Anonymous program. They have to want it. I'm telling you right now. Can't nobody make you do anything. You know, and a shout out to the inpatients and the outpatients, the people that still, you know, some of them still in treatment, some of them coming out of treatment. You know, I thank God that we have places like this. You know, I thank God that somebody found that in NA that we had a lot of major issues with drugs. And I thank God that somebody see that. I thank God that people know that. You know, and that means NA is everything. That's alcohol. That's all kind of pills. That's all kind of liquor. And AA is another big one, you know, because a lot of the people that I've been talking to, you know, is dealing with, you know, AA. That's dealing with alcohol. It's dealing with, you know, and I know when I pray for even the people that I don't see, because I know how addiction is. Addiction will take you to a place. And when I said we didn't break, let me tell you something. We felt like breaking. We almost gave up. I almost gave up. Some of y'all almost gave up. But we still kept on. We just kept on. Still kept believing that something was going to come. This disease of an addiction, I hate this disease of an addiction because it take good peoples and make them become something else. And it takes away their joy. It takes away things that they work so hard to get. Now, we all understand life pain. We all gonna go through something. We all gonna go through death. We gonna go through hurt. We gonna go through betrayal. We gonna go through losing our joy. We gonna go through health problems. We gonna go through things that didn't even that we didn't even have nothing to do with. And people don't believe that. And I'm so glad that I have a floor mat to where I can talk about it and keep it real. I ain't trying to make nobody like me. I ain't trying to make nobody listen to me. This is a freely Narcotics Anonymous program is free. You know, and when you come to the core of your addiction and you know that this disease is an addiction and you know that the only way you can win and the cure that I found out is a cure. And it's the biggest cure I know. It's a cure. Long as you don't pick up. Long as you don't go pick up and use. Just for that day. See, I didn't get it at first. Coming into treatment, I didn't get it at first. I didn't get it at first that you telling me that I have to let go of some things, that let go of something big that has helped me to understand my disease of an addiction. Because once you realize you got a disease of an addiction, then you'll know that you have a problem. Anytime you pick up something and you can't stop, anytime you keep drinking, anytime you keep shooting heroin, every time you keep popping pills and you can't stop and you keep doing it over and over and over again, it's a problem. And it ain't just gotta be drugs, but any addiction, you know, is a bad addiction. Any addiction. But we talk about the drugs of addiction. How alcohol took us off balance. How drugs took us off balance. How it made us feel like we didn't have no hope. It made us feel like we wasn't worthy. It made us feel like nobody loved us, nobody cared, because they couldn't fix us. They couldn't give us a thing to do that would cure us. And it is no cure. Only cure that I know, it's a cure. Long as you don't put it in your mouth, long as you don't use it, that's the cure. And you have to have a program that you follow to sustain all your behaviors and your pattern, your behaviors. And I was reading, I was like, man, a lot of my stuff, a lot of our behavior started way before we picked up. People want to blame it all on the drugs, but it's our behavior. The drugs only do what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to damage and control, take over, make you think that you ain't worthy, make you want to take your life. In a lot of my prayers, I send out prayers to the God of my understanding, because people have took their lives dealing with drugs and alcohol or any type of drugs. So with narcotics, when I got into the program, I really didn't even think it was a program. I really didn't even care if it was a program, because I was an active using person that was indeed sick. When I tell you indeed sick, I was indeed sick. My thinking was sick. My mind was corrupted. And I didn't see no way out. I didn't see nothing. All I know, I used to live and live to use until it became a problem in our lives, on our daily living, the things we used to do, how we used to use people to get what we wanted, and deny. So when I say we didn't break, we was on our way. We was on our way to breaking. We was on our way. We cried, asking for help, but didn't know where to get help. But somehow or another, a yellow book told me about a NA meeting. A yellow book, y'all. Could nobody else tell me, because I tried to hide in my addiction. Everybody knew something was wrong with me because I was mean. I didn't want nobody telling me nothing. I isolated a lot. I walked down the streets and with my head down. My life was upside down. And I tried to figure out why. Well, I know why, but what can I do? I didn't have no hope. All I wanted to do was use. And when I got up in the morning, all I wanted to do was drink. All I wanted to do was pop pills. All I wanted to do is not feel. I didn't want to feel nothing. I was already disappointed in myself. I was already gone in my mind that I'm a lost cause. The enemy tell you that when you're up under the influence of drugs or any kind of drugs and alcohol, it'll tell you that you ain't worthy. You'll tell you ain't nothing. You a mess. You a disappointment. God don't love you. How many times did being in the influence of drugs, my mind told me God don't love me. He disappointed in me. Until I had to keep bending. And I had to keep bending, and I had to keep crying. Addiction is so real, and some people take it lightly that it can't happen to you. It can't happen to none of your kids. It can't happen to your sister or brother. It can't happen to your auntie or cousin. Let me tell you, it don't discriminate. It don't discriminate. It kills anybody. It takes anybody. White, black, green, purple, it don't matter what color you are. It don't discriminate. And once I learned about the addiction, that this is a disease, and this is a disease that we will ever continue to have, but we have to treat it like it's a disease. And that's how I treat mine. That's how I treat mine. I treat mine like I have a disease. I went to the doctor today, and I was talking to him, and he was like, Renee, you full again, because it was so cold on that train. And I never ride another train. I never ride another train. No, give me the fly. I just fly in a minute. But anyway, I went to him, and he says, you okay? You need anything? I was getting ready to leave. I said, Dr. Gali, you know I have another disease. And he said, what's that? What's that, Renee? I said, a disease of an addiction. And he looked at me, and then he couldn't figure it out at first. I said, I'm a recovering addict. I've been coming to you for almost 4 or 5 years, and you didn't even know I was recovering. And something told me to tell him today I'm recovering. That's why I have to watch what I take. I have to monitor what I take for me, because I don't ever want to get back on depending on some kind of pill or depending on some kind of drug and I'm going through and I'm recovering. So you have to remember that. You know, I know people that's in recovery that's still hooked on pain pills. And I can't do that, because pain pills will take me somewhere else. And I ain't gonna never forget that. I got to stay with that. I have to know that I have a disease, and I have an active disease that can come up on me at any given time. So if I don't manage and control and fix the situation of what I'm going through for that day, then it'll linger on into another day. And then you pick up that mess and it'll linger on. And then you just say, forget it. Forget it. And I can't forget that I'm a recovering addict. I can't forget. We can't forget. Y'all can't forget that you're a recovering addict. I don't care who you with, who you're around. You must maintain that you know that you are a recovering addict. And I don't mind telling nobody I'm a recovering addict. I'll tell the world I'm a recovering addict. Because here, a recovering addict means you worked on something. That means if you got clean time and you started getting clean time, that means you worked on something. No matter how sometimes our attitudes will pop up, no matter how many times that our familiar cricket thinking can pop up, you still have to remember we're recovering addicts. And we survived. We survived all that drugs we put in us. We survived all the stuff that we put ourselves in danger on. We survived. And it was a reason for us to survive. It was a reason for us to survive so we can tell another addict or tell another recovering addict or tell the one that's struggling that this program works. I'm a living witness. It works. A program that worked for you will continue to work for you long as you work for that program. Long as you work in a program. So I found myself sometimes in life with disappointment, sometimes with hurt, sometimes when I don't see myself being like that next person. You know, when I tell somebody I forgive them, I forgive them. And I will hope and pray when you ask me for forgiveness, but you know, somebody else always play the victim. We got some friends or some kids that always play the victim. Like they ain't never done nothing. They ain't never done nothing. But they can stow thorns at us, or they can break up stuff. Do you know I probably would be a millionaire? All the money I've spent on my kids, the behaviors and the things that they got themselves in that I had to pay for them to get out. Come on, Renee. Do you know? No, you don't know. But you don't know what we go through with our kids. You don't know what we go through with our friends. We don't know what we go through with our associates. And that's why I have to stay in my lane. I can't jump in this lane and jump in that lane, because jumping in all them different lanes will cause me to get high. The God of my understanding, I talk to him. He understands me before he know what I'm finna say. So I know I got a true friend in him. Because he ain't never let me down. He talks to me all the time through the day. And sometimes when something is bothering me and I can't take it no more, I have to get up and I have to talk about it. Or I have to go to the person and talk about it. I couldn't used to do that. I used to just get high about it. I used to get in my car and just go anywhere just to get high. Like the drugs was my best friend. And it was, in my state of using drugs, it was my best friend. I wanted my friend in the morning. I wanted that drug in the evening. I wanted that drug at night. And then I'd turn right back up and get right back up again and wanted that drug again. So I had lost it. But we survived. That's why I'm so grateful. We survived. And you know the best thing that I hope when it's my time to go, that I'm still gonna go and leave this world clean. The way I came in clean. But somewhere down the line, I lost my way. Somewhere down the years, I lost my way, and I wanted anything to make me feel good. Anything that could make me feel better than what I was. And I do know mental illness is for real. Depression is for real. I've been there, done that. So when I say we didn't break, I mean that. I got to the point. I did some things that some of y'all who haven't followed me wouldn't even know that I did. And somehow or another, after all I went through, I still had enough strength in me so I would not break totally to get up and do something about the disease of this disease of an addiction. You know, I lost me some friends. Hey, Essie, I lost me some friends. That's why I said we didn't break. You know, we got lost. Hey, Esther, good to see you, baby. We got lost. I know I did. I can't speak for everybody, but I know I was lost. Like in the, you know how an animal or a kid is walking around and they lost. I was lost. All I know is that I had to crawl before I can get back up and get back on my feet. I had to go through some turning points in my life. I had to lose some friends. When you come into recovery, and recovery really means something to you, and you find out about this disease of an addiction, and you know that you've been doing some things that nobody else knew you did, and you know you've been in a lost situation in your head. You know, you let stuff stay in your head, and you lived on that every day. You lived on something that happened to you years ago. You grew up with some hurt. You grew up with disappointments. Let me tell you, that's going to always be. That's going to always be. Disappointment's going to always come. I don't care who you are. Hurt going to always come. But we found a better way to deal with it. We found a better way to deal with it than use drugs. Or drink some alcohol. Or take some pills and make us feel better. I don't ever want the disease of an addiction to ever let me forget I have a disease of an addiction. Now, had I not found recovery, I couldn't get on here and tell you how blessed I've been. I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't tell you how blessed God, how he brought us through some things, how we went to the lowest, how we went through the floor on our knees. I don't know about you, but and when I got clean, I stayed on my knees because I couldn't believe that I went 30 days without this. I went another 60 days without that. Next thing you know, it's 6 months. Next thing you know, man, I'm a survivor. I didn't go back. At no cost did we go back. Yeah, some of my friends relapsed, but guess what? They survived, and they made it back to talk about it. Some people don't make it back to talk about it. You know, I'ma always treat me like I'm worthy. Because at one time in my life, I treated myself like I was worthless. I settled for anything. I let you use me. I let you hurt me. Not on top of us hurting ourselves. We already had messed up within ourselves, hurted ourselves for all the stuff that we brought to the storefront. and all the things that we did to get some more drugs, I got to tell you the truth. If you don't want this program, you won't make it. If can't nobody tell you what to do or tell you that this is a disease of an addiction and you can't do it your way. Our way would messed us up in the first place. I know my way was. Because all I did was use every day. So when I tell y'all, or I sit on here and I cry, because don't nobody know nobody else's story but your own unless you tell some people about your story. I didn't never think I would make it this far. And so since he granted me life, that I survived after all the horrible things that we did to our bodies and put in our bodies, and he allowed us to survive. Yeah, I'm blessed. Yeah, you blessed. Everybody that's in recovery know how blessings feel when you ain't never got to use no more, no matter what. I ain't never using again. I don't care who do what. And it has taught me a better way. It's taught me a new way. It taught me that this is a disease, and this disease must be looked after daily. Don't try to pop up with your friends and see, I don't have no more friends that I go out to the bars with. When I came into recovery, I was broken. And I needed to get fixed. I needed to understand why we keep hurting ourselves over and over. Why we'll keep allowing people to rent space in our head, and they don't even care. I can't deal. That's why I get to myself. That's why I stay to myself. And that's why when I get loose and the God of my understanding get into me, I'm going to let him speak through me. I'm going to let him speak about how the NA way came into my life and made a difference in me. Not just with the drug. Now don't get me wrong, not just with the drug, but my behaviors, my thoughts, my impulsiveness, my mental illness. Because half of the world got a little bit of mental illness. I don't care what nobody say. And I had it. And I didn't know what to do with it. And it got worse when I started using. That's why now I promise. I look at my life every day that I wake up and I said, thank you, God. I thank you because I know what you done for me. You did what I couldn't even do for myself. You took me to a place of NA. You introduced me to NA. You introduced me to a place that was known for pain, what they went through. And when I got in there and I kept going to meetings and man, I started feeling lighter because I was heavy. I just was heavy. I didn't understand it. I was heavy. I was heavy burden. I was a disappointment to myself. I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't stop using. I always did things that made me make bad decisions. So when I say we didn't break, we survived. I ain't lying. We survived. We went through something. Yes, we did. We went through something. We went through a whole lot. We went through something that ain't even nice. We did some things that you wouldn't even want nobody to know we did. We went through some things because that addiction is bad. The drugs is bad. And when I see people's, they put people's on Facebook and they put them all on the ground, high, kicking, all that. My heart goes out. Because if you ain't never been addicted to drugs and any kind of drug, then you wouldn't even comprehend why that person is on the ground like that. You would just say that person is crazy. There go I. I guess I was crazy. Because I was them person who used to sit outside and go behind somebody else's bush and sit there and get high, sit there and cry, sit there and get high in the dark. Who does that? Who goes in the dark and get behind somebody else's bushes and sit there? I did all that. And I understand what it is for God to come into your life and put the right peoples in your life. To put a program that has never let me down in all these years. The 12-step program has been a part of my life since I came in. And I love knowing who I am today. You know, I love knowing that I fought my way through to get to where I'm at. I love knowing that I gave up a lot of stuff so I can gain some integrity of knowing what it is to be free from all drug substances. I get so overwhelmed because my addiction habit cost me a lot. Cost me a lot in my health. Cost me a lot in my mind. Cost me a lot in friendship. It cost me a lot with my family. It cost me a lot. And then I found a new way to live. I started reading. I started picking up books and reading that was going to benefit me. I started understanding that this disease is nothing to play with. Because even when you're feeling good, you can pop up and people be high again. Be happy and you can still get high again. Be sad, you can still get high again. So you have to understand that this addiction is cunning. See, I didn't understand that part about cunning, baffling, and powerful. I didn't understand that when they used to say that. Well, this disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Until I started reading. Until I started seeing me in all these books I was reading. And you know what? And I'm still reading. And you know what? I'm still in the books. I'm still in the books. I just put my name in the book that I'm reading of. It's all about me. It's all about my disease. It's all about my character. It's all about my behavior. It's all about how I'm feeling. It's all about what I want. It's all about what I need. It's all about what I want to hold on to. It's all about, do I want to live or do I want to die? Simple. Simple. You keep playing Russian roulette, that's what's going to happen. And I didn't want to die. I wanted to fix some things. I wanted to fix some things that I had broken within myself. I wasn't worried about nobody else, but I really wanted to fix me. Because see, if I fix me, then I can fix everything else. But I had to work on me. I had to learn to survive. I had to learn how to survive within my own feelings. I had to learn how to pick up something that was benefit to me. And I found NA, and I found all the books that I was reading was benefit to me. Because I struggled through life, through pain, through hurt. I struggle. You struggle. They struggle. That's why I love it when they say this is a unity. It's a we thing. It ain't just a I thing. It's what we all going to have to go through. It's what we all going to have to read. It's what we all going to have to go to a meeting. We going to all have to do some kind of service work. And every day that I thank God because he introduced me to a yellow book that's been sitting in my house for years and never picked up nothing. You know how the phone, yellow book, find this and find that. And I thank God. God just, he ordered my footstep and told me to pick up that book. And as soon as I turned that first page, there was Northwest General Hospital. I always say that because I'm so grateful to Northwest. It's not there no more, but it helped a lot of people. Northwest General was the thing. That's where we showed up at. That's where we held meetings at. That's where, in recovery, and I remember my counselor, Sterling White, telling me, go on and spread your wings. I'll never forget them words, because him saying them words to me gave me hope. Him saying them words to me believed in me more so than what I believed in myself at that particular time. You know, and now when I talk to him and I see him all the time, and I say to him, I'm so grateful that God gave me a counselor like you was. I'm so glad that I got the sponsor that I had. I'm so glad that I ain't, you know, some people, we come into recovery and we was already kind of bent over coming in. But what I like about that bent over coming in, we worked on ourselves. We start giving ourselves some hope, strength, and we were walking on faith. And all of a sudden, I didn't have to be bent no more. All of a sudden, I started walking tall. All of a sudden, when my head used to be down and I tried to hide, then all of a sudden, I'm looking forward. And then all of a sudden, I'm straight headed. So I went through many, many footsteps to get to where I'm at today. And I ain't gonna let nobody separate me from the love of God that brought me into the 12-step program, that showed me how to get my life together and how to maintain it. Not just get it together and leave it alone. Get it together and maintain it. Stand on something or you're gonna fall for everything. And I ain't falling no more. Ain't no more breaking me. I don't care who it is. It's only going to make me stronger. It's only going to make me better. And that's what it's supposed to do to you all. You all come too far. We come too far to stop now. We want to get better. We want to learn more. We want to understand this disease more. And I'll tell you something else. The more I go to meetings and the more I learn. The more I go to meetings, the more I hear. The more I go to meetings, the more I understand. The more I read and pick up the books. You know, that helped me. The books really help me. I keep these books, all kind. And you come in my bedroom, it's all kind of books. And that strengthens me. And it helps me to understand this disease of an addiction. And it helps us to understand why we use. Why we use. And the answers you might get, you might not understand it right then, but you got to keep on understanding and knowing what you're reading and go to meetings so you can continue to survive. You know, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that the NA program welcomed me. And that's another thing I want to speak about. You know, I'm glad I survived to speak about is that I'm never alone. I'm not alone no more. I have a whole new family. I have a family that been through some of the things I've been through, or even worse, or even more. But I had a family that accepts me for who I am and what I am. And I am a NA member of the Narcotics Anonymous program. And I have a right to tell somebody that I have a new family. A new family who don't use. I had that. And I'm going to keep that. Because they struggle just like I do. Don't nobody come into recovery and everything is perfect. Please understand that. They don't. We have our days. I've had my days. But I had my days where I had to cry. I had my days where I didn't understand why people still want to hold you hostage. Can't hold me hostage no more. You know, some people would rather you leave them alone than to say they got a problem. To say they got a problem. So, you know, I'm good in disappearing. I'm very good at that. But this time when I disappear, I go to a meeting. This time I don't disappear and want to find a way to go back to use. I don't want to ever use again. I would never ever use again because I'm so grateful to be where I'm at today. God blessed me because I wanted him to bless me so that I could understand this disease of an addiction. And this disease is never going to go away. So when you think you got decades of years or over 20 years, over 15, 30, 40, 50, you know, you still have to treat it like it's a disease. You're going to have to. Because if you try to fit in like I was doing, you know, I went through a lot of stuff because I came into treatment, and then I had to let go of a lot of people. I had to let go of some of my best friends. You know, they drank and they used drugs, and, you know, I had to let a lot of people go. And they talked about me. So you turned on me. You ain't no friend. You ain't nobody. But see, I didn't live that lifestyle no more. I couldn't understand that. I couldn't stay clean if I'm going to get with you and live the lifestyle that I used to. And that's why I was breaking, because I had to let a lot of people go. And they tell us when I went to the meeting, I remember the thing I said, you know, people's and places and things you have to change. And I understood that. Long as I kept staying in the program, I knew what it meant when they said that. I can't go to my girlfriend's house and I know they all drink, or I can't meet up at a bar, you know, and push my luck. You know, I might can walk in there one time and drink me some cranberry juice, but, you know, then I might be feeling a little better that day and might want to take a drink. So I don't play with my recovery. I'm not going to play with it at all. Because for the first time in my life, I know who I am. For the first time in our life, we understand this disease. For the first time in our life, we don't have to be criminals to get some drugs. We don't have to stoop as low to get some drugs. All we got to do is don't use. No matter what. No matter what. You know, even getting into a relationship. I had some relationships when I came in that didn't work. But I had to nurture. I had to understand why the relationships didn't work. Most of the time my relationship didn't work is because you was using. And I was not. And I wasn't going to settle for that. I wasn't going to play with my recovery because that might mess up my recovery. That might, because, we recovering addicts, we like things that when I was using, I like things that make me feel good. Not just sex, not just loving, and I just liked it, anything that make me feel good. And I had to watch that. I had to watch how I felt. Because feelings will take you somewhere. The next thing you know, you're getting high. So I had to understand this disease. And this disease tells us that we still must sustain from using. No matter how long we've been clean, we still must sustain from using. And I know I can't never use again. I don't even want to use again. I don't even think about using again. You know, I remember telling y'all that one time I felt like, and I had years clean when I lost my mother. But then I heard my mother say, baby, Renee, don't do that. Just as clear as 1, 2, 3. Because I was at a breaking point. And sometimes when we're in our lives, when we go through a breaking point with our kids, with our fiance, with our husband, with our friends, with our associates, you know, people that we know. You know, sometimes when we go through hurt, you know, everybody is going to go through hurt. See, what I love about recovery, that recoveries teach us, you know, no matter what happens in your life, you have to always remember you are a recovering addict. If you get in a relationship, you're a recovering addict. You know, sometimes I have to watch who I deal with, because sometimes, you know, when I was using, seemed like I always needed people that was needy. Always was going to depend on me to nurture them. That was my problem. See, I found that reading the books about me. I found that going through Narcotics Anonymous, working the guidelines. And I found out in me that my problem was I always allowed people to come in my life that was needy. So I can feel good and nurture them and forget about nurturing me. And that's one of the key points that have helped save me. I don't have to nurture nobody but me. I'm important today. Where I thought I was useless or I wasn't nobody years ago, God of my understanding had to show up and tell me everything I made was good. It's what we do to ourselves. or what we allow people to do to us. How we allow people to come in our space and take over, and then we finding ourselves smothered. We finding ourselves knowing that this ain't right. Finding ourselves, why am I allowing these people or this person to come in there and just do me any kind of way? I had to talk to myself and answer myself. Am I crazy? No, because at least I had a chance to answer myself. Come on, Renee, now you know this ain't right. This ain't good. This ain't no healthy relationship. No, you can't change nobody. You can't, Renee, keep the focus on yourself. You know, that person doing too much. You can't do that. I remember came into recovery, and I remember this one guy who went to the meet with me, and I was proud that he was clean. I was proud that he had 4 years. I was proud, because I wanted to have somebody in my life that was like me, that wasn't addicted to nothing, and found out that this person that went to Chicago, came back, and this person was on heroin. And you saw how I had to take that deep swallow. This person came back from Chicago and came back, and all of a sudden this person was high. And I never been around nobody that used heroin before. I had an uncle that was really used to heroin. He's not here, and I love him so very much. He got clean and got himself together. But, I had to learn, that when he came back, I had to learn how to watch a person. And boy, I can tell he was on something. I can tell. So I called 911. And I'm like, I was scared, you walling out, eyes going back in your head. I never experienced that before. I just heard about that my uncle was on heroin, but he never did it in front of us. He was like one of the big time pimp player, that I can remember. But he changed his life before he died a couple of years ago. And I remember understanding that my recovery must come first. And I remember him, so I called an ambulance, and they came in. I was so glad to this black woman. And y'all know I got a chance to see her again. She remembered me. I didn't even know who she was, but she remembered me. And she was the one that told me, is he a user? I'm like, no, he been clean almost 4 or 5 years, he said. He said, no. She said, no, he haven't. He didn't overdose. He overdosing in your room. I'm like, what? He overdosing. See, that's the nodding and all this and that. So she came in and she put this Narcan up in him. And she told me when he wake up, he going to be alert and wide. Man, I was so hurt. Oh, I was so hurt. I felt betrayed in my own house. I felt betrayed within my space. And I remember when they did that, he woke up. I had never experienced this, y'all. And he woke up. Alert. Why did you call the paramedics? I said, because you was doing some things you don't normally do. You was wobbling in your head, and then I couldn't wake you up. And then he said, the lady came and told me, said he was overdosing on heroin. I said, what? Renee, how was you so blind? Renee, why was you so blind? Then I started feeling bad because I should have seen it. But I didn't see it, y'all. I didn't see it because he wasn't like that around me. We was only together for about six months. And I didn't see that. And when I got up the next morning, I came and slept in my living room when I got up the next morning. And he said, oh, I was so mad. Oh, thank you, God, of my understanding. I was like, look, you need to pack your stuff up. If your brother ain't going to come get you, I'm going to drop you off, but you got to go today. I can't. My recovery is online here. I believe in my recovery. How did you go to meetings with me and you've been using? No, I went to Chicago and my friends came around and I used and I messed up. And why you come back to me? Why didn't you just stay in Chicago? But it was meant for you to come back to me because God wanted me to know that you're a user and a liar. And then after that, about 3 months, somebody called and told me he had overdosed. He had died. So sometimes when we allow people in our space, you got to really check who you bring into your home. You got to really check who you dealing with. So, if you got to do a resume on that person, do a resume on that person. Because ain't nobody coming in my house ever again that I don't know everything about. I might can't know everything, but I'm going to know. I'm going to do a background check. I'm going to do all that. And if you feel like that's too much, bye. I'm okay being alone. I'm okay by myself. But these are the things that I had to experience clean. But I didn't break. I didn't use. I stood on something. Yes, I was going to fall for anything. And I mean that. I mean that. I gave my whole life to a God of my understanding in the NA program. Hey, Pandy, good to see you, honey. And I mean that. I've lost my son due to addiction. You can't see pain. But I knew my son was in trouble. I knew he was popping pills. I tried to help him. I tried. I tried. Sometimes when a person is in addiction, they don't want no help. And sometimes they do want help, but don't want nobody to offer them help. I tried. And that's what hurted me so much. And I know addiction is very painful. I don't know what kind of addiction somebody else deal with, but I deal with many addictions. I didn't just stick to one thing. Anything that made Renee feel good, I wanted. Anything that I could feel and escape, and I don't have to deal with me. I don't have to look at me. I don't have to want to be in the presence of me. I used. So I had to find a way to, when I went into treatment, to understand this disease. And this disease, it got breakdowns to it. It'll let you know where you at. When you keep reading, why is you still doing this? Why is you still doing that? And you got amount of clean time. Why is you letting this surface back up? Why is you letting your thoughts pop in every now and then? Keep them thoughts out of your head. Nurture yourself. Put yourself around people that love you, that truly love you. See, some people don't truly love you. They just be around you, because you're convenient, or they need something from you. But you got to really nurture yourself to understand peoples. To understand that this is a dog-eat-dog world out here, and everybody that look good and talk good ain't good. You have to remember that. You have to remember, and see, I had to remember that. That's why I've been celibate, and I'm going to stay that way, because, see, my heart has been broken, and I took me a long time to mend it back. So I don't let no one in. God is in there. God of my understanding, He's in. He's all in. But when God wants you to have somebody that you don't have to nurture all the time, and you don't have to watch all the time, or you don't have to find out they've been lying to you all the time, He'll either remove them or bring you somebody in that's better than the one that He removed. That's how I look at it. But I love being clean. I love understanding that I don't ever have to use. And my biggest two things to show me that this recovery worked is when I did lose my mother, then turned around and lost my son, and I didn't use. I struggled, but I didn't use. I cried and I bent over, but I didn't use. I shouted and screamed, but I did not use. I had to let the 12 steps of the Narcotics Anonymous come into my life, and I started reading. I started going to more meetings than I was going to, because I needed to nurture me. Because pain will take you somewhere else, but you have to remember that's how we got high, from pain. So I had to nurture me. I did plenty of work. I went to double meetings. I went to everything, because I had lost some people that I loved, and I didn't know how to deal with it. All I knew, I couldn't get high. So I had to deal with hurt. I had to deal with not seeing that person on this earth. I had to learn how to understand the disease of an addiction. Why I'm hurting, and I need something to make me feel better. That's what got me high in the first place. So I had to do some different things and go to my women's high stepper, go to somewhere and talk to some girls, and people came over that was NA, that was my friends, that helped me through that. And that's why I love the NA program, because you get friends that genuinely care about you, because they either been in that situation or they know about the situation, and they gonna come and help you out. I have friends now, multiple millions of friends from all over because of this broadcast. Because of when I get on here, because I ain't trying to get on here to be funny. I'm getting on here for real. You know what? It really bothered me when I was down there with my grandsons and I couldn't get on live because it was too much going on and I couldn't leave. And then I was understanding, so I had to talk with the God of my understanding. I'm like, God, it's really hurting me that I can't do what I've been doing. And I had to tell myself, well, you know what? Things happen, but I didn't know why it bothered me so much until I did some reading. And the reason why it bothered me so much is because when we're recovering and we working on ourselves and we doing something to nurture ourselves or help somebody else with faith words, with good words, with hope words, and then all of a sudden we miss that time length, it shadows us because I love my grandkids, but this is something I love even better. I love my grandkids dearly, but I love the life that I live now, the life that I talk about, the life that I shout out to people about. I'm recovering, and I'm glad to know who I am. I'm glad that I'm a NA member of Narcotics Anonymous program, and I don't have to use. No matter what happens in our lives, we have to learn how to fix. If we don't stay clean, to learn the tools that we need to use to help us when situations come our way, then we're going to be lost again. And see, I always remember that. I don't ever want to be lost in the wilderness. And again, in my life, I don't never want to even phantom to think about killing myself, and almost did it a couple times. I don't want to think about that ever again. Every now and then it'll cross my mind what if I had to pull that trigger? What if I had to took them pills? What if I had to jumped over the bridge? What if I had to did all them things? I couldn't be here to tell you. I couldn't be here to help another individual help another individual get themselves together to know that this disease of an addiction will kill you. It will kill you, whether it's pills, alcohol, heroin, whatever kind of drug. It will, opium, with all that. All that's a drug. So I learned a new way to live. And it's a better way to live. And I found myself not letting people use me and hurt me no more neither. Yeah, I went through that. I went through that about a week ago. I went through that. I went through a hurt. I went through some hurt. But you know what? I felt so good. I put people's before me. I shut up and I sat on it. I sat on it. And that lets me know I don't have a heart like they have. I don't have that. I don't have that. And I'm so glad I worked so hard. And you all should be so glad that you worked so hard to understand hurt, understand behaviors, understand things about yourself that any other time you would have went off or you would have did something. I didn't. I just was still. But when I got back, I had a conversation with the God of my understanding, and I couldn't even sleep one night when I got back because some things was done that wasn't right. But I had to still remember I'm a recovering addict. I have to still remember watch your intake, Renee. Watch your intake. Please watch your intake. I had to understand that. And I'm so glad that the NA of Narcotics Anonymous program I fell in love with. I fell in love with something that you don't need a price on it. You don't need nothing. It's free. You can go any given time, and I go all the time. because I wanted to be free. And I wanted to understand my addictions as long as my behaviors and my attitudes, and I was messed up due to the drugs. I ain't gonna lie. And it's so good that we don't look like what we've been through, but we done been through something. Anybody that's living, that's got years of recovery or just got a year of recovery can tell you that the best lane to stay on is the recovery side. Because I don't ever want to go back to the life I used to live, criminal thinking, behavioral problems, hateful problems, always wanted to get back for somebody who hurted me. I don't have to do that today. All I got to do is be still. Be still and know the God of our understanding, He's working the scenes where you ain't got to do nothing. That's what I love about this recovery. Recovery, I can wake up and say, "Ooh, man, I still, I always tell you, I still go in the bathroom and check that roll of tissue paper." Y'all thought I was playing. I keep it full because it was such a time in my life when I was using, I didn't have no tissue paper. That's sad, but true fact. True facts. And so every little thing that I took for granted before, I don't take for granted. I don't take for granted now. I thank God for everything that He showed me, everything I can see with a clear mind and an open heart. I can see better. So, thank you. I hope I helped you in some kind of way. I hope I've said something to encourage you. You must stay encouraged. Even though we going through this a wicked world right now, and even though what we going through, stay encouraged. Because if you don't stay encouraged, you'll lose your focus. You'll lose your focus and you'll find yourself in some errors in your life you don't want to be in. So God bless you. Thank y'all. I see y'all on Sunday. And Sunday, on Sunday, I love these steps. I get fired up. I ain't gonna lie. I get fired up when it comes to the steps. Because I be the read, and I get a different story from every time I read the steps. Same scenario, but I don't know. I get fired up when I read about me and read about how it works. We on step 6. We was totally ready to have God to remove all these defects of characters. And man, we had some defects of characters, and the program helped us. And if you can't do nothing nice to somebody, if you can't say nothing nice to somebody, don't say nothing. Hold it in. Don't say nothing. I had to. It's okay to get your thing across, but don't be like the next peoples. Don't try to be like the next peoples. Be yourself. Be what the recovery have taught you to be. Understand this disease. Talk about what you need to talk about, and don't use. That's the whole key. I continue to ask God to bless everyone who come up on this site, to bless everyone that's struggling, that's going through something, even within ourselves. We are special. We are peoples that, we're good people. So I'm struggling for everybody that somebody done did something to them, done hurt them, asking God to bless you, that your health issues. I ask God to bless you for your mind and in the spiritual part of your soul, and don't become like somebody else, and don't let people continue to dwell in a place that you cleaned up a long time ago. So thank y'all. I see y'all on Sunday. And for the ones I don't still, God keep you and bless you. And thank y'all for being a part of my process. Thank you so very much. And thank you, because y'all can be doing something else. I don't take that for granted. I don't take that for granted at all. It's too many things we can be doing other than what we're doing right now. But God put me here, and God gonna keep me here. So I thank y'all. If ain't nobody told you that they loved you, tell them that Miss Renee says she loved you. I have to speak tomorrow, and then I got to speak Sunday. And I thank God for wisdom and ask Him to give me some things to put out that somebody else might need. Because we never know what another individual need to hear or need to understand. So I ask God for wisdom. I ask God for courage. I ask God what comes from the heart reaches the heart. So I thank y'all so much. Cousin Pam, Pandy, Mother Maddie. I thank y'all, Issa. I thank y'all. And for the ones I cannot see that comes on afterwards in the morning, next couple of days, thank you. Thank you for being my friend, and I appreciate it. And thank you for helping somebody else that you might come into that's struggling with addiction. Don't ever give up, even if it's your kids. Don't ever give up on nobody. Don't ever give up on your kids. If they on drugs, if they on alcohol, if they on any kind of stuff, don't ever, ever give up on your kids. And I tell you that because I never gave up on Johnny. I never gave up on Johnny. So don't, you remember that. Just hold on, keep the faith, and I'll see you Sunday. God bless you. Have a good night.